Thank you so much for having the time and capacity. And with that, we are going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to hand over the webinar to our Mangrove Breakthrough Ambassador, Carlos Correa, who will be providing the opening remarks.
Well, thank you, Christina, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I know you are in different parts of the world now. Thank you for being here. And it's a privilege to be here today to discuss one of the most critical global initiatives aimed at protecting and restoring our planet's invaluable coastal ecosystems, the Mangrove Breakthrough. And this initiative launched at COP27 by the Global Mangrove Alliance and the high-level climate champions sets an ambitious goal to secure the future of over 15 million hectares of mangroves globally by 2030. And to achieve this, we aim to mobilize 4 billion in sustainable financing and take collective action to halt the loss of existing mangroves. Between 2010 and 2011, over 60,000 hectares were lost. And we can estimate that 37,000 hectares of this was due to direct human impacts. To bring such losses to zero by 2030, we need to start to reduce loss rates from now. Then second, restore half of the lost mangroves. It's estimated that 818,000 hectares of mangroves are considered restorable. And the goal seeks to restore half of this area by 2030. And then double the protection of these vital ecosystems. Ensure long-term protection is increased from 40% to 80% of remaining mangroves. With 41% of the world mangroves currently in protected areas, mangroves are already well covered compared to many other ecosystems. Next, please. So, why mangroves? The answer lies in their immense value to climate mitigation, biodiversity, and coastal resilience. Mangroves sequester an estimated 435 million tons of CO2 and provide crucial habitats for species, benefiting marine biodiversity and supporting livelihoods. Moreover, they offer protection against floods for over 15 million people and safeguard 65 billion worth of property annually. So these ecosystems are not just vital to our environment, but are also critical economic assets, with total ecosystem services estimated to reach 700 billion. As we work to advance the goals of the Mangrove Breakthrough, we rely on a few core principles. Next, please. Empowering people, safeguarding nature, using the best available science and practices, and aligning our efforts to local context for lasting sustainable impact. Now, today, more than 30 governments and 50 non-state actors have endorsed this initiative, reflecting the global momentum and commitment to this cause. Countries from all over the world have joined forces, along with partners from finance, research, and conservation sectors. This is a powerful signal that mangroves are gaining the recognition that they deserve at the highest levels of policy. Now, why should others join this movement? Next, please. The Mangrove Breakthrough not only accelerates critical biodiversity and climate targets, but also opens the door for sustainable financing and collaboration. By connecting to this community of action, we can ensure successful interventions rooted in the best science and practices, avoiding fragmentation and driving real progress. So as you know, mangroves are not just coastal trees. Next, please. They are vital nature-based solutions that protect our coastlines, store carbon, support biodiversity, and sustain millions of livelihoods. It will be a time to demonstrate that through this initiative, we are turning promises into action and action into results. We call on national and subnational governments to join the Mangrove Breakthrough to mobilize action at scale for these vital ecosystems. Today, as we begin discussions, let us reflect on the transformative potential of this initiative. Together, we can turn the tide for mangroves and safeguard the future of our planet's coastal ecosystems. So thank you very much. We can do it with all of you, with all your support. Thank you very much. Over.
Thank you so much, Carlos. Hi, everyone. My name is Annalise Zimmer, and I work at the Pew Charitable Trusts. And on behalf of Pew, I lead the Mangrove Breakthrough's NDC Task Force. And we're so excited to have you all here today for the NDC Task Force first webinar in a series of webinars to support governments in developing mangrove positive NDCs. You can go to the next slide, please. So as Carlos explained, the Mangrove Breakthrough provides a framework for governments to align and drive their international policy commitments with their efforts at the national and local level. And I'm sure you are all aware of various international policy frameworks, such as the Convention on Biological Diversity, the Ramsar Convention, and the UNFCCC, and others listed here that recognize the value of healthy mangroves and their benefits to people, nature, and climate. Next slide, please. The Mangrove Breakthrough NDC Task Force, oh, you can go back, please. Thank you. The Mangrove Breakthrough NDC Task Force specifically focuses on the UNFCCC's Paris Agreement as a lever to implement the Mangrove Breakthrough targets that Carlos just told us about. In the Paris Agreement, countries are encouraged to conserve and manage areas such as mangrove ecosystems that are important for climate mitigation and adaptation. And they also happen to have amazing biodiversity, food security, and coastal economic benefits. Countries can actually recognize the benefits of mangroves in both or either the mitigation and adaptation sections of their NDCs, also known as nationally determined contributions to the Paris Agreement. And these NDCs are the primary implementation mechanism of the Paris Agreement and are required to be routinely updated by governments to be more ambitious each cycle. The next update cycle is in 2025. Next slide, please. So this NDC revision cycle is the foundation of the Mangrove Breakthrough's NDC Task Force, which is an initiative that is co-led by Pew and other Global Mangrove Alliance partners with their logos here on the slide. And we aim to transform these Mangrove Breakthrough government endorsements into mangrove positive NDC commitments in the lead up to the 2025 NDC cycle. We are a community of mangrove policy and science experts that provide technical guidance to Mangrove Breakthrough countries as they develop and implement mangrove positive NDCs. Next slide, please. So I know you are asking, what is a mangrove positive NDC? We define a mangrove positive NDC as being a specific, measurable, and science-based commitment to the conservation, restoration, and management of mangrove ecosystems. Some of the elements of a mangrove positive NDC include the recognition of the many benefits that mangroves provide in the adaptation and or the mitigation section of an NDC. It should have area-based and time-bound targets for mangrove conservation, restoration, and or management. It needs to be informed by the best available data, science, and local knowledge. And a mangrove positive NDC is developed by governments in participation with other stakeholders. They also should be aligned with other national policies and priorities, such as national biodiversity strategies and action plans, or NBSAPs, that many countries are developing right now in alignment with their NDCs. And finally, our goal for a mangrove positive NDC is to attract finance, which is another pillar of the Mangrove Breakthrough, so that these clear and science-based targets can be implemented and lead to durable conservation for the long run. Next slide, please. So since the NDC task force was officially launched this June, we are pleased to share a resource hub with guidance that we've developed for mangrove positive NDCs. And I invite you to scan the QR code to access this resource hub. We've also compiled other best practice guidance and resources for including mangroves in NDCs. On World Mangrove Day in July, we conducted government outreach to Mangrove Breakthrough governments, and we've begun to provide tailored one-on-one technical NDC policy and data guidance to Mangrove Breakthrough countries. We're also really excited to be hosting this webinar series to promote knowledge sharing and best practices amongst governments, scientists, and policymakers and other mangrove stakeholders. And please, if you're attending any of the upcoming conferences such as COP16 or COP29, please look out for our events so that we can continue to share knowledge and learn from you as well. Next slide, please. So I'm going to end with a call to action. Mangrove Breakthrough governments, we really want to work with you and support your mangrove positive NDC ambitions. Non-Mangrove Breakthrough countries, if any representatives are on this webinar, we invite you to endorse the Mangrove Breakthrough and join this exciting community of action. And any non-governmental organizations who are on this webinar, we invite you to collaborate with us. So please do reach out. We would love to build this community of actors and strengthen mangrove positive NDCs and policies for effective conservation. Thank you so much.
Donc, moi, je suis le lieutenant-colonel Abdou Aziz Ndiaye, je suis le directeur adjoint des aires marines communautaires des protégés du Sénégal. Donc, je commencerai d'abord par remercier les organisateurs de nous avoir associés à cet important événement. Donc, là, il m'était demandé un peu de vous parler de la CDN au Sénégal, donc la contribution déterminée au niveau national. Donc, ces déclinaisons au Sénégal et puis aussi de la stratégie nationale de conservation des écosystèmes de mangrove. Là, je m'exprime depuis le Sénégal et vous comprendrez bien que, voilà, que je puisse vraiment m'exprimer en français. Donc, par rapport à notre contribution nationale déterminée au Sénégal, la contribution déterminée au niveau national du Sénégal est un document donc intersectoriel, donc à portée nationale élaboré en 2020 et qui a pour objectif principal de reprendre les acquis de la contribution prévue déterminée au niveau national. Donc, il y avait déjà une contribution prévue déterminée, donc qui a été élaborée en 2015. Concernant les engagements de réduction des émissions de gaz à effet de serre, mettre à jour dans le respect de l'engagement du pays dans le cadre de l'accord de Paris. Voilà, donc sous ce rapport, la contribution déterminée nationale traduit un engagement soutenu à inscrire le pays sur une trajectoire de développement sobre en carbone, en assurant la résilience de l'économie, des communautés, des infrastructures et des villes. Elle est portée par le ministère de l'Environnement du Sénégal, donc qui est le point focal changement climatique, mais est conçue en collaboration étroite avec tous les sectoriels et départements ministériels concernés, donc l'agriculture, l'industrie, le tourisme, la santé, les finances, l'urbanisme, l'assainissement, etc. La contribution s'articule autour de deux composantes. Donc, il y a une composante atténuation pour agir sur les causes comme les émissions de gaz à effet de serre, mais également il y a une composante adaptation pour agir sur les conséquences comme la résilience des écosystèmes et des communautés. En ce qui concerne l'atténuation, donc la contribution prévoit réduction des émissions de gaz à effet de serre en 2025 et en 2030. Donc, il y a deux horizons temporels qui sont définis. Donc, c'est l'horizon 2025 et l'horizon 2030 dans différents secteurs de l'économie. Comme je l'avais dit tantôt, l'énergie, l'agriculture, les contributions conditionnelles, vraiment qu'on appelle CDN.
Good morning, good afternoon, bonjour, bonsoir, bom dia, boa tarde, buenos dias, buenas tardes to everyone. My name is Felipe Limon, and I speak on behalf of the Secretary of Environment of State of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. First of all, I would
Les
apologize.
contributions inconditionnelles et conditionnelles couvrent chaque pacte taillé par le texte par rapport
Apologies, Felipe. You're good to go.
Okay, no problem. First of all, I would apologize to everyone for my English, which, as you have noticed, is far from the best. I appreciate the opportunity to highlight the importance of subnational government experience in positive mangrove strategies, advanced climate and nature initiatives. The state of Rio de Janeiro, in 2021 climate COP in Glasgow, has committed to increase the Atlantic forest cover by 10% by 2050. Among the ecosystems included the community are the state's mangrove areas. Approximately 22 municipalities in the state of Rio de Janeiro are, to some extent, bordered by a mangrove ecosystem, many of which are in highly vulnerable conditions. As the way to boost the restoration and preservation of the Atlantic forest biome, the state government of Rio de Janeiro created the Florestas da Manhã, Forest of Tomorrow program in 2020. This program has already invested among $5.1 millions of dollars in restorative efforts. This year, in the third phase of the program, which included a partnership with the National Bank of the Economic and Social Development, BNDES, a new call for proposals is being launched with evaluated research amount to approximately $10 million. The call proposals focus on working closely with non-governmental organizations in various forms of partnership and to take new steps towards to strengthen the bioeconomy, restore the state's mangrove and the Atlantic forest. By the end of the program, the government expects to establish new partnerships to maximize available results with investment $66 million already secured for restorative forest. As member of Visions 4 and Regional Adapt Initiative, we highlight that some national governments, like Rio de Janeiro, play a critical role in connect local efforts to global goals. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Felipe. Just to give context, right now we are doing country and subnational case studies. So we just heard from Senegal. We just had the state of Rio de Janeiro representing Brazil speak. We'll also hear from a case study for Sierra Leone, as well as a pre-recorded case study for Belize. And then we will pass it over to a representative from Ocean and Climate Platform to speak to a a newly launched report and present a policy analysis on aligning national biodiversity and climate strategies. And then after that, we will have a 10-minute question and answer segment. So thank you so much to both Senegal and Rio de Janeiro. Now we open the floor to the next case study, which is Sierra Leone. Thank you. Ms. Yatta? Apologies, I think we might have an audio issue. But perhaps while we get that sorted, we can jump to the Belize case study. Again, this is going to be a...
Hello, my name is Nady Bood, and I work for World Wildlife Fund, Mesoamerica, based in Belize. My presentation today will speak to the role or the approach Belize took to integrate mangroves within its nationally determined contribution. Belize committed to update its NDC, its nationally determined contribution, every 5 years. And not only to update it, but to also be ambitious in its approach to setting the targets. Keeping in mind, of course, the role ecosystem play in carbon storage and adaptation co-benefits. The NDC outlines the targets and actions that Belize will take to address climate change in terms of both mitigation and adaptation. Mangroves are featured prominently within Belize's NDC, and there are quantitative and time-bound targets, including for protection, securing protection of 12,000 hectares of mangroves by 2030, and for restoration, undertaking 4,000 hectares by 2030. The targets are reflected within both the mitigation and adaptation sections of the NDC. While the mitigation section outlines the time-bound measurable targets, the adaptation section has as actions some of the following: establishment of new and or improvement of existing public conservation measures to cover 100% of publicly owned areas identified through the National Forest Mangrove Regulation. As well, it includes the prioritization of aspects such as partnerships with owners of mangrove properties, local communities, bilateral and multilateral agencies, as well the continued enforcement of the country's national mangrove regulations. The process of designing these targets was inclusive and transparent. Varied government entities were involved, including those relevant to development permitting within the country. Such entities include the Forest Department, which has the mandates for mangroves, the Lands and Surveys Department within the Ministry of Natural Resources, which has the mandate for land management, the Department of Environment, which has the mandate for development permitting, and the mining unit that has the mandate for marine dredging, all of which, and marine dredging and land reclamation, all of which can have an impact on mangroves. Non-government stakeholders were also strongly involved or clearly involved in the process. They participated in consultations and focus group discussions and provided valuable data and information based on their local and national knowledge and perspective, as well as the research that they had ongoing. So science and information was strongly factored in within the target setting for the NDC. Mangrove targets were designed with existing national mangrove policies in mind, inclusive of the country's national mangrove regulations, the National Integrated Coastal Zone Management Plan, and the National Forest Landscape Restoration Plan, which all speaks to the need for protection, better management of mangroves. Science also played a strong role in Belize's NDC commitments. The setting of mangrove targets was informed via various scientific analysis, including assessment of ecosystem services, analysis of habitat and climate risks, and looking at the needs for resilience building and socio-ecological adaptation with a nature-based approach in mind. The NDC document is also accompanied by an NDC implementation plan with activity-based costing per each actions outlined within the NDC. It also outlines the collaborating partners that will help to foster implementation of the NDC on the ground, including the need for these partners to help source potential financing for effective implementation of the NDC. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So again, that was a pre-recorded presentation from Nadia Boud, who's the Senior Program Officer with WWF Belize. Right before that, we heard the case study from Rio de Janeiro, Felipe, representing the Secretary of State for Environment and Sustainability on behalf of the government of the state of Rio de Janeiro. Prior to that, we had the first case study on Senegal. And now we are going to hand it over to Sierra Leone to present the country case study. And the presenter is Ms. Yetta Camara, representing the National Protected Areas Authority. Ms. Yetta, over to you. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Yetta Camara from Sierra Leone. As I was just introduced, I will be giving you our commitment in what drove Sierra Leone to be ambitious in committing to the NDC. Next slide, please. Yes, giving you the background context, as you can see, our coastline stretches about 560 kilometers, of which 4 of it are designated as a marine protected areas. With an estimated through the satellite imagery, we have 268 done this 2024 hectares of pristine mangrove forest, excluding the deforested areas. Based on studies that happens from the trend from 1990 to 2020 by the West Africa Biodiversity and Climate Change Program supported by the USAID, we got the information that 60,000 hectares has been lost, of which we knew that we are losing mangrove annually every year, 1% every year. Next slide, please. So based on this, it drew the country attention, and also through the NDC target also from the CBD and other MEAs, the Ramsar. So the country committed themselves to restore 5,000 hectares. But looking this year at the climate risks issues that happen in our coastal communities, even in some landslides, farms are flooding. So within our committee meetings from various organizations, institutions, and NGOs that are climate and environmental actors, we want to scale up our NDC to become ambitious by looking at in the next update of our NDC, we are looking at 30,000 hectares at least to restore half of it because of what we see the disaster is happening in our country. That is why when we got to hear about the Mangrove Breakthrough, we already decided to sign up with them and endorse the breakthrough because we know it will be a success globally, not only to the country. Based on this of what we saw, the case study that will be presented to you Ali after this made the country and through the Ministry of Environment to be committed to promote private sector and development partners investment in large-scale mangrove restoration program. Next slide, please. Why? What drove this? We had a case study, a white man bill, where we have the Congo Town Collector that has been abandoned and degraded, barren over 25 years. So through the Christian Relief Service support, with collaboration with the Kodosapa, NGO called Kodosapa, looking at poverty within coastal communities, we try to do a pilot survey in this area to see how we can restore 40,000 hectares to see whether mangrove can thrive in this area. To our surprise, we saw that within 5 months, we got next slide, please, so you can follow what I'm saying. We got 1.5 meter height within 5 months growth of mangrove after restoration. But what happened? We didn't just restore and leave the place, the mangrove to thrive for themselves. We prepare the land, use the community people themselves, clean the land, and then restore the mangroves. And we looked at a molded by calling it the growers. We restored the mangrove, we had the maintenance team, and then we tracked it to have evidence base. Next slide, please. So we did the case study on 6 hectares by planting 40,344 mangroves. And we got 95% surviving rate. Next slide, please. With an evidence base through GIS tracking that was developed by a Sierra Leonean called the Tree Tracking App. As you can see, the area where this community is found is called the Whiteman Bay. And you can see the distribution of each mangrove that has been planted in the map. If this is because this is a presentation, but we have the link that when you touch each mangrove, you will see it tagged by its numbers to verify and give you the evidence that 40,344 were restored. Next slide. Next slide. And as I told you, I'm trying to present these slides to you to see the evidence of what has given the ambition to Sierra Leone to scale up their NDC commitment in mangrove restoration. You can see the minister that came in last time, Minister Joe, the Ministry of Environment, himself visited the site to demonstrate mangrove restoration. He is on the right hand with the white long sleeve shirt. And then you can see the World Bank team also coming to see how evident this was. And they came to do the next demonstration. So now, as I speak, because of the 40,000 that thrive successfully, we now have planted through the support of other organizations, the Freetown City Council, and other institutions, we now have 180,000 being restored at the site. Next slide, please. So, you can see the World Bank team also doing the tracking demonstration. He is tracking his tree to monitor the growth rate. How does this happen? Your face, you'll be snapped and your name registered. And if you track 10 trees, it will be assigned to you 10 trees, 001 to 10 onwards. And what will happen, you will now see the growth rate of your trees. So this is evidence-based. And it has a platform that has been stored that we have somebody monitoring the platform that will give the evidence that this amount of trees has been restored. Next slide, please. It also, since March, we took a photo. You can see the evidence of the growth in progress. Next slide again. And in August, this is at a high tide in August, very high. You can see the mangroves are now thriving, fighting to be on top of the water. So this, next slide again, so I can be faster. Thank you. So this is what that drove Sierra Leone to be highly ambitious in order to increase their restoration in hectares scale in their NDC, because we now notice that we have our coastline soil that can support, that is viable, which can support mangrove growth. And within 2 to 3 years, we know those mangroves will be at a high scale that can support carbon sequestration that we add to global contribution. That is why we decided to join the Mangrove Breakthrough, so our voice can be heard, so the world can know that Sierra Leone is contributing immensely to carbon mitigation in the world. As you can see, at the end of my presentation, 90% has been lost, but we are reversing the net loss through the commitment of mangrove restoration by promoting private sector and development partner investment. So thank you. Together we can deliver.
Thank you so much, Yata. And with that, that concludes the government case study segment. Again, there will be a Q&A after the next presenter. So if you do have a question that you would like to ask to any of the government representatives from Senegal, Sierra Leone, Rio de Janeiro, and or Belize, we ask that you write it and put it in the Zoom chat. We will be monitoring the Zoom chat. And or if you have questions for Carlos Correa, who provided the opening remarks, and or for Annalise Zimmer, who gave an introduction to the Mangrove Breakthrough NDC Task Force, please feel free to write those questions via the Zoom chat, and we will have around 10 minutes for a Q&A. So again, that concludes the government case study portion of the presentation and the webinar. And now we are going to hand it over to Maureen from the Ocean and Climate Platform to do a policy analysis and speak to the newly launched, I think today, report, Blue Thread, Aligning National Biodiversity and Climate Strategies. So with that, over to you, Maureen. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Christina. Thank you for the invitation and for convening this webinar. And honestly, I have to say congratulations to all of the countries that presented for their great efforts in protecting their mangroves. I'm very impressed. This is very inspiring. So yeah, I'm here today to present the policy brief that we have prepared with the Blue Marine Foundation and 9 other partners, that was published not today, but yesterday, so very close. And it's building on various elements that you have presented today. For instance, Annalise's presentation that clearly showed that we have a very different frameworks addressing mangrove conservation and mangrove action in general. Also heard a lot of partners mentioning the CBD. So basically, this policy brief is all about the synergies and how can we make sure that all of the different frameworks are connected. So as all of you know, the UNFCCC and the CBD, they're highly complementary, but despite their potential for cooperation and alignment, the synergies between the two remain quite insufficient. The interest, of course, for synergy has been increasing as we have a greater urgency to address the two interconnected crises of climate change and biodiversity loss. So we've started to make some progress, for instance, with the global stocktake that recognize the need to address the two crises as one and the same. But cooperation at the moment remains largely ad hoc, and there is a need to really move forward to more integrated approaches, especially at the implementation level. Achieving policy coherence between national strategy will be really crucial in advancing these synergies, because despite their complementarity and their overlapping nature, national strategies are often addressed as separate policy processes. For instance, NDCs primarily engage with ministries and stakeholders on energy, transport, industries, whereas the biodiversity counterparts, the NDCs, engage those focused on conservation, forestry, or agriculture. And of course, this separation makes coordination particularly challenging. So it's really essential to develop and implement these documents in a more holistic, a more coherent manner. And this year's agenda, as pointed by Annalise, provides a really great opportunity to do so, because for the first time we have an alignment of submissions with biodiversity strategies due in October for COP16 and climate strategies due in February 2025. So what we demonstrate in the policy brief is that ocean-based solutions can play a key role in enhancing synergies and really build what we call the blue thread across climate and biodiversity regime. And you can go to the next slide. I'm sorry, I didn't mention it then, but yeah, so this is the brief and I added the link in the chat. But basically what the brief outlines is first that we need to develop a common long-term strategy for integration across this convention, with the ocean, as I said, acting as a great connector. We share several ideas, for instance, having a mandate from the COP for collaboration at the national level, or also the possibility of having a joint program of work. The second opportunity to do so is to develop integrated solutions that are both climate smart and nature positive to deliver on the Paris Agreement and the Global Biodiversity Framework. And here, of course, mangrove conservation is obviously paramount. And we are considering two different aspects of this solution. The first one is, of course, to deploy marine and coastal nature-based solutions to maximize the co-benefits. And we're talking obviously of the Mangrove Breakthrough, the task force, the financial roadmap, and the different tools that are available. But we also want to talk about how to avoid and reduce impacts of mitigation measures to also minimize the potential trade-off across climate and biodiversity action. So going further and talking also about offshore wind or shipping, so the transition of other ocean sectors. The third one, and the last one, is to activate key levers to strengthen ocean-based solutions as part of national strategies. And of course, there's a lot of opportunities. The brief talks about interlinkages across ministries, capacity building, but I wanted to highlight some ideas there. So the first one is obviously finance, to ensure that climate and nature finance architecture are not only compatible, but fully integrate the ocean. So there will be a lot of opportunities with, for instance, COP29 negotiations on finance, trying to make sure that ocean finance is also climate and nature finance. Another idea that we enhance or that we highlight is to request technical guidelines, technical assistance to really ensure that we have ocean-based solutions that are integrated throughout strategies. So for instance, working with the NDC partnership that provided some inputs to the brief, or with the NBSAP accelerator, we highlight some specific tools, mechanisms within the two conventions. So yeah, some ideas also specific on capacity building. And last but not least, it's also focusing on monitoring and reporting mechanisms for both national progress. I mean, here I'm not going to teach you anything, you know that, but it's basically looking at how we can alleviate the burden of reporting for national progress, and also to ensure that the different review processes inform one another, making sure that we also have a more aligned collective progress assessment. So yeah, basically this is the idea of the brief, going through the different policy options and looking at opportunities to move forward together to optimize the resources that we have. Of course, the blue thread doesn't stop here, and we should ultimately try to connect with all of the relevant framework, for instance, in the context of mangrove with the Ramsar Convention. But this was a start, focusing on these two national strategies. So yeah, I'm available if you have any question, and thank you for your attention, and I hope you enjoy the read. And with that, I would like to pass it back to Christina. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maureen. And again, she dropped the link for the report in the chat that was launched yesterday.